What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Midweek Modern Craftsman. I cannot believe that it's already March. I don't know how the hell that happened. But last week, my wife and I went to Las Vegas for the International Builder Show. I'm sure I saw a handful of you guys and girls there. And while I am not a huge fan of Vegas, the trip was really a bit of a game changer for me. It switched my perspective. So for the first time in probably over a decade, Rachel was able to join me on this trip and really see firsthand the impact of this community, the connections that I have, the relationships, the support. And having her there really was an eye-opening experience, not only for her, but for me, because it really reinforced the biggest takeaway from these events, that it's not just about the products or the booths. At the end of the day, it's really about the people. So stick around as I dive into what made this year's IBS so special, the power of networking, and why these events are more than just industry showcases. So yeah, now that I am readjusting to East Coast time, that's one of the biggest struggles I have with going out west, which if you would have had me bet money that Las Vegas was Mountain Time or West Coast time, I don't know why I'd say Mountain Time, but the 3-hour time change is tough. Not as much waking up in the morning because you go out there and you're gaining 3 hours, so it's super early. But you get out there, you're on West Coast time, you're getting done the show at 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, which is really 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then you're supposed to go out and have some dinners and network. So you get home at 10, 11 o'clock, midnight West Coast time, and it's, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, which I'm not used to doing. And then your internal body clock is waking you up at the same time. So it's a tough transition for time. And if you get adjusted whatsoever by the time you get back, it's also difficult. So now that I'm readjusted a little bit, I'm still having trouble getting out of bed and getting back to it. I also, every time I travel, I get sick. I guess it's the airplanes and close quarters, meeting a ton of people, just being inside. So I'm sure to leave Las Vegas with a cold. It might also be the amount of carpet. Vegas, a lot of carpet. That's, I feel like, what should be like the license plate for Las Vegas is just the city of carpet. I guess it's to prevent people from falling and cracking their heads open inside the hotels when it's late at night. But just a lot of carpet, too much carpet for me. But that aside, it was a really nice trip, a super productive trip. So I'm sure all of you know, and I'm actually going to record a podcast on this shortly here, that Rachel and I and my family are going to be building a house. So we have some partnerships set up for that, partners with the podcast, coworkers, business partners, associates, supporters, listeners. I have this entire community of people that I go out and I see every year. Some I see more than that. But being that we're building a house and there's so many companies that have supported what I do and the podcast and our own house build, that I thought it would be appropriate if Rachel joined me just to meet everyone. Even, the Contractor Coalition Summit, Brad, Morgan, my wife knows Nick, but Doug, there's so many people involved that she lives her own life in that regard. She really hasn't been a part of the Modern Craftsman or TRG Home Concepts other than supporting me like emotionally as I've struggled through certain aspects of business. She doesn't have a huge a huge stake in the business. So she just hasn't been around the community that much, especially since Tilly was born. I'd say that's the last really where Tilly was born, and then we kind of reassessed the household structure and makeup, and she works full time. She handles so much of the family aspect and getting the girls out the door in the morning and ready and handling their schedules before school, during school, after school, all the extracurriculars. And I'm just kind of responsible for helping where I can. If she travels for work, helping. And a lot of taking care of myself, the house, the build, stuff like that. So that's how we split it up. But she just hasn't been a huge part of it for a long time. So I was like, why don't you come out with me? And it wasn't really the best time for some things that are going on in life right now, but we ended up making it work thanks to some family who stepped in and helped out. Um, and it was a really good trip. It was a productive trip. The weather was amazing. We met with a ton of partners. We met with new potential partners. We checked out some really cool products. Um, but really, the big takeaway for me was just the people. And how I I want to say ignorant or just numb I've become to the network and the community. And I don't like, it's not because I'm not grateful for it or gracious for it. It's just that it's become normal and I don't really notice it as being anything different than normal. So we arrived in Vegas early. A bit of a hiccup with me and Nick and booking hotel rooms, and currently my MC credit card's not working. So Nick booked the room and he was on a plane and I went to check in. They're like, well, you didn't book the room even if your name's on it. And I was like, it's my business partner. It's our credit card. It's our business. And they're like, yeah, but Nick Schiffer booked the room, so we can't get you into your room. They're like, but you can have him call and he can put you on the reservation, not as just the room, but the person who booked it, and we can get you into your hotel room. I was like, that's cool, but he's on a flight, so I can't do that. So he did everything that he could do. He even sent me his ID. And we couldn't check in until Nick got there, which was fine. We went and grabbed some food, hung out. But then Monday night, we had our Contractor Coalition Summit meetup, which we oversold. I think we had 180, 200 people there, and we had capped that. That was at our hotel, Park MGM, so super convenient. But Kayla Morgan, her entire team at Construction to Style handled most every aspect of that event, which allowed Brad and myself and Nick to pretty much show up and enjoy it and just network. But thanks everyone who attended that, all our sponsors, Kayla and her team, Morgan, Kayla and their team. It really was an amazing event. Just the amount of people who were there supporting us, networking. And I typically, in a situation like that, that my wife would attend, I would be by myself, or I'd find somebody to sit down and have a conversation with, or just hang with my wife. And she was like, I didn't see you the whole time. You were out socializing, mingling. She's like, what are you doing right now? Like, this is not who I know. Which I guess, that's just part of being a part of this industry and developing this network and meeting people, and introducing yourself to people, and I guess being an adult. But she doesn't normally see that at home when it's like a family outing or, a sporting event for our kids or a social outing. I'm typically the one who's not being extremely extroverted. So that was like the beginning of me realizing how amazing this community is, and like the impact of what we've been working towards and what we've established. And this isn't just me and Nick and partners at CCS. This is like we as a whole, as this industry, as the community that I see big picture wise. But that was like her first interaction, being like, wow, this is bigger than I anticipated. This is bigger, and more important and stronger and more critical and powerful than what she knew 8-10 years ago. I guess everyone being grown up now as well, there's a higher level of maturity. And it was like a professional gathering, networking event that, a lot of people showed up for this community, and the proof is in the pudding. And I think that this was her this really interaction and ability to witness that, in the last decade. And to me, it's normal. It's been this slow growth, this organic evolution, and I just see it as normal at this point. But her perspective, not being removed for the past decade, was just, hey, this is really, really cool and really important, and really incredible what everyone is doing, for this network. So that was really what struck a chord with me most and really set the tone for the rest of the show. So the rest of the show, we walked the floor. We met with potential partners for podcasts, for build, for personal brand. We met with, existing partners, people who supported us for forever, people who we partnered with in the past, friends. We went to lunch with my buddy Chris and his wife Christy. We went out to dinner with Jordan Smith and his wife Veronica. Doug and Nick joined us. We had events with Rockwool, with Anderson, with Huber. I know Diggs wanted us to go to an event, but we weren't able to make it to that event. Just a lot of people, a lot of networking, and even just walking the show, bumping into people that we've known for the past 10 years. My wife was just in awe as to how many people either I knew me, was supporting what we were doing, was showing up to events, had worked with us before, and just like how genuine it was. So Modern Craftsman had 2 solo presentations. So Nick presented with Ellie from Anderson, which was amazing. Presented solo with Show from Anderson solo. Nick and I had a quick talk with our buddy Paul for his new business that he started up or just launched at IBS. And then Nick and I also presented for NAHB as well. And the first presentation, I think, was 8 a.m. on, if the show started, I want to say the show started on Tuesday morning, maybe. Tuesday morning, yeah. And it was like 8 a.m. Tuesday morning, Central Hall, second floor. And I'm like, there's nobody going to be here. And they told us that they had like 400 or 500 people there. And I just anticipated really not that many people showing up. It was a quick talk, and we had a ton of people who knew who we were. And again, my wife was like, this is crazy. Like, I really thought nobody was going to be here at 8 a.m. the night after they got in Vegas. And it's incredible to see how many people showed up. And then again, after the presentations, just having the chance to connect with people, hear their story, how we've impacted them, just connecting with people in general, which is typically like, for whatever reason, my personality wise is not something that I go out of my way to do, especially with people I don't know. So an opportunity like this, it's a lot of work, but it's greatly appreciated. And again, I think that I've become somewhat numb to it just because it's been the case for so long. And we've done this before, but it took my wife being there to really shed some light on that and provide some clarity as to how important this is to everyone, how important what we're doing is, how important the relationships that we're developing, the questions that we're answering, the people that we are bringing together, and it really solidifies a lot of what we're doing. And even after the show, right, the follow-up that I've gotten from people that I've either met before, I met for the first time, had more questions that I didn't have time to answer after a presentation, so following up just to discuss things more in depth, looking for insight, looking for motivation, has been really cool. And other years where it's like, I'm tired, this was a lot of work. It was a long few days, and then getting back to it and having to continue to really foster those relationships sometimes felt as though it was a lot of work. And now I'm looking at it just from a different light, where it's like, there's an opportunity to really change people's lives, to bring them into this network, to create a sense of community, to strengthen the relationship with us, to strengthen the relationship with the building industry, and really to make a change for the better. And again, I think that really is a lot of the motivation and the catalyst for why we started this podcast in the first place. It wasn't really to make money. It wasn't to convince people that we knew everything or we had all the answers. It wasn't to say that we're the best. It really was just to have candid conversations with people and to develop a network and a community and serve as a hub where people can come, and whether they are looking for affirmation to what they're doing, whether they're looking for direction as to what they can be doing differently, inspiration, whatever it can be, we always wanted to serve as that hub for the community. Um, and that's why we started this podcast. And I think that as things change and as life gets more complicated and there's less time, you know, you question why. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you putting all this effort? And it's the same thing with business, right? It's like I'm bending over backwards to serve my clients and to put the best product out there and to try and make an impact on the industry and change. And sometimes it becomes monotonous and you lose sight of the big picture because it just seems like the same and more of the same and more of the same. And you start to question, why is this worth it? And having Rach there with me and having her meet, sponsors of the podcast, listeners of the podcast, partners that we've worked with for years. I mean, I like Rachel got to meet the fine home building team that I've worked with for the past 10, 12 years. I got to meet Brian Pontalillo, who's been at Fine Home Building forever. He's gone. He's left. He's worked his way up. He's been an editor. He's been in charge of everything. And I've worked with him for years, and we've just never crossed paths. We've worked together. We've done articles together, shot videos together, but just never in person. And I got to meet him there for the first time in a dozen years, which is insane because I think I've met everyone who's ever worked at Fine Home Building at one point or another, except for him. She got to meet Jess, who I've dealt with forever from there, Noelle, who I've dealt with forever from there. Just these people who have impacted my life and my career trajectory, and really just changed things for me. And they've always supported me, and they've always just wanted me to be authentic, remain authentic, and create a space for me in this world where I can have the impact that I really desire, which to me is more important than everything else. Even with partners, with my relationship with our followers, with our listeners, with our supporters, it's to always just bring a ton of value to this relationship. And yeah, like there's times where we need to offset the costs, and there's times where it's about the money, right? And I don't want that to be the main driver for this. And that's never been the main driver for my business, for the podcast, for any of my relationship with sponsors, with partners, with vendors, with our students. It's more so making their lives easier, and just bringing a ton of value to those relationships with them. And that's what it's always been about. And this trip, again, really reaffirmed that for me through the lens and the eyes of my wife, because she's somebody who's just been disconnected from it for so long. And it's not always the case in every industry, right? And our industry is a highly competitive industry, and there's not a ton of collaboration. And then you get together at a show like this and you see hundreds of people, thousands of people that we've connected with over the past 10 years, and how strong those relationships are, and how we're all looking to help each other, and how we're all looking to impact and better this industry. And I mean, it's not all serious either. Like there's people we connected with. Jordan, we went out with Jordan, and like, I don't know, just the banter that I have with him, it's always great. It's always funny. We had an amazing dinner with Doug, Nick, Veronica, and Jordan. We went off the strip, experienced a new area of Vegas that I was way cooler than the strip that I didn't even know existed. And we just had a nice dinner and got to socialize, and connect with him, which I don't see them. I probably see them once a year, maybe twice a year at best. And I just realized, so much has come from that relationship. The work I got to do with MT Copeland, the network of people that we've tapped into, having him on the podcast, the knowledge that he has, meeting his family, meeting his wife. It's all incredibly important. It all means a lot. There's a lot of authenticity, um, and a lot of personal gratitude that I have for these relationships, like outside of the professional aspect of this. And I think that's probably what my wife saw. She more than likely anticipated just a really professional experience, and a professional environment. And I think that she saw that and she witnessed that, but she also was had the opportunity, um, to see how we connected on a personal level and the relationships that we've developed over the past 10 years and how much they mean to everyone. I was really glad that she was able to experience that, and why this has been so important for me, and why this podcast and what we've done has been such a driver in my life for so long. So thank you to all of you guys and girls who have supported us. Thank you to everyone who came up, who supported our presentations, who came to our events, who said hi while eating breakfast, getting coffee, lunch, walking through the show. The people who followed up, I probably got a dozen people who followed up via email, Instagram message, just like, hey, really nice to connect. I'm glad we spoke in person. Really appreciate what you're doing. And just, to me, that's what it's all about. And that's the uniqueness of this industry. That's the uniqueness of what we're doing, and why I fell in love with this industry in the first place. There's a lot of things that aren't great about it. There's a lot of struggles that we all face. But at the end of the day, I think if you can find a community of people who are really there to support you and not compete with you and help you, I think that that's the bigger impact that we can have. And the network that I've been able to really place myself in the middle of, the past decade, has really been something incredible. And I lost a little bit of that, the sight of that, while being completely immersed in it. But I have this newfound appreciation and invigoration for the trades and the community that we're a part of, and what we're doing with Modern Craftsman and TRG and all of my sponsors and partners and friends and family, because it's really cool what we're doing. And it really is unique. And I'm super proud of it. And I'm super proud of all of you for what you're doing and how you are a part of this just as much as we are. Not everyone has the platform to do it, but we wouldn't be able to do it without all of you. So again, the eye opener for me here is just how much all of you mean to us, how much you mean to this community, and how important these shows are. Not necessarily to go see product, right? Not necessarily to go check out what's new on the floor, but just to meet and engage with people who you look up to, who you've been friends with, and have those conversations with them, and then maintaining those relationships long after they are done. And to be honest, that's coming from me. That's saying a lot, because I'm typically the one who likes to dip out and hide. But I was able to step up to the plate for everyone this week, and my wife, and I think she was slightly impressed with how many people I knew, which gave me some brownie points. But JLC is coming up. We are going to be there as well. So if anyone's thinking of attending JLC, I think we're going to be doing some stuff with Anderson there, maybe a few other things. I might head up early, so maybe we have some stuff in store for Modern Craftsman. I guess you'll just have to wait and see. But again, thanks to everyone for an amazing time at IBS. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for saying hi. Thank you for attending our seminars. Again, just supporting what we're doing, supporting this industry. And I will catch you guys maybe next week. We're heading to Arizona to film some stuff for an overnight, so schedule's a little bit tight, but hopefully I see you guys next week. All right.